as with a lot of TV shows, Game of Thrones is another example, the end never lives up, I don't think, to the actual...
Did you not like the ending?
The show.
A brilliant TikTok of two people playing the game with the things on a underground station in London was awesome. Someone else filmed it on the other side of the planet.
Is he not the worst protagonist of any TV show you've ever watched in your life as an actor? And I was like, yeah.
That better be full of money.
Yeah.
I was like, it's full of money.
Watching TikToks these days. You said you couldn't get on with it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm dabbling. I've got to experiment.
Okay.
InspirationNation, hello, Lee Kemp here for another week on the podcast. As always, with my good friends Jose Noya and Ryan, mouthful of food, Boniface. How are we doing, guys?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you.
Yeah, we good.
You did well there, Ryan. You did well there.
Saved it.
He did amazing, to be fair. You called him right out.
He did. Called him right out. Thank you everyone for listening and watching on YouTube, Jose Noya-Inspiration, and across all podcast platforms. Don't forget to check us out on social media as well, at ListenToIN, ListenToIN. Appreciate all the shares, likes, comments, feedback, and all that good social media stuff. So this week, after 2 fantastic weeks of Lee, it is now Ryan, who has been prepping all week with his fantastic subject. So what have you got for us this week, Ryan?
Well, Lee, I kind of lied to the pair of you.
Oh, he has. He's prepped.
Oh, what's going on? Oh no, I'm feeling a bit nervous right now.
So, and this episode of the podcast may contain spoilers to certain things. So just be aware of that. I'll disclose what they are.
Oh, you have finished watching it.
I have indeed finished watching it. So this week I would like to talk about some of the meanings or outcomes behind Squid Game. Not necessarily about the story, although the story obviously is going to come into that conversation, and that's why there's like a spoiler thing. It's been around like 3-4 weeks. If you've not watched it, then watch it. But there is your spoiler warning. So we've all finished it. My first question to the pair of you is, how did you find the ending?
Oh, going in strong.
Yeah, God, that's straight away. People are going to think a spoiler. Lee, do you want to go first?
Yeah. So again, well, Ryan said it already. If you listen to it, pause this, go and listen to another fantastic episode of Inspiration Nation, and come back to this once you finish the show, which is a good bit of padding for me to collect my thoughts. So I suppose there's 2 bits to the ending for me. One is the old man twist.
Mm-hmm.
And second is I don't know if it is redemption, and that probably needs exploring, but the phone call as he's walking on the plane and then he turns around and walks away again.
Yeah.
So I suppose let's talk about old man twist as a starter.
Yeah.
Now I had something, and I can get independent verification on this if you like, but watching the first episode, and the old guy was loving red light, green light.
Yeah.
Absolute face of joy, and he ran out and he's like, and my assumption was that he'd been in the game before, and maybe, I don't know how it is at the time, but maybe he made it all the way through or something like that, and he keeps coming back again, because not only was he really enjoying it, he seemed to know what was going on as well. And I was like, I bet he's been in this before. That was my initial thought, which then as it went on, I kind of put down because that didn't appear to fit very well. And then I was like, that's why he knew about the game, because he made the game. And it was that, I suppose, that on his motivation, darting around with my thoughts here, but it's quite dark that basically him and his friends were all super, 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 super rich and bored because they were so super rich from whatever they did, that for their own amusement, they'd start. The simple bit is sending people in to kill themselves and laugh at it, but actually manipulating people, because I could go on about this forever. This is my last thought, and then I'll let someone else have a go. But as an example, the bit where they let everyone vote on whether they wanted to stay or not. So there was a bit of an outcry, and it's like, oh, we don't want to do this. And they were, it says in the rules, if enough of us vote, we can get out. And they were like, all right then. And it wasn't like, all crap, let's go and cobble together some scraps of paper and let them vote. They then wheeled out the custom-made voting machine ready for them all to vote, ready for them to say no, to say, oh, but you can come back again if you want, because they probably go through that every single time and know with 400 odd people, the same pattern or variations of it play out. So it's the whole manipulating people for their own amusement bit is quite dark. And I think that's what draws me in about shows like that, is how scary that is. And I think that's the bit that really draws me in on things like that, and Hunger Games and Battle Royale and all those type of things. So I suppose on that bit, yeah, the old man twist and the fact that it was so gloomy as to why they were doing it. I've got a question on it in a minute, but Joe, jump in. I'm rambling around because I like the show.
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear points. So when you're thinking, what am I thinking about? I didn't really know, but as you were talking, it started to come to me a little bit about what I thought about the ending. And for me, it's about, people went in there because they wanted to, they got recruited because they owed lots of money, right? They had lots of debt. But then the old man, like you said, the old man twist is like, even though they had all that money, and this is my sort of, suppose my personal development slant on it, is they were still bored. Like, it almost homes that thing to me, is that the ending was, did he get redemption? And even at the end, he wasn't, if I get this right, because a bit of a while to watch it, he wasn't dead, right? He wasn't dead at the end, even though he died, right?
No, well, that, again, there's different. Obviously, you can interpret it however you want to interpret it, and that's a good. I've not read anything that says that, but maybe he isn't really dead. He just faked it, and then he moves on and he does the same thing in the next game.
Yeah. So that was. Go on. No,
the thing I'd read while you're on that, just because it's in the same thread of conversation, was the question was, see, there was the bet on humanity's awful, that no one's going to help that person out there, and it turned out they did at the last minute. And the question I'd read was, did the old man see it and died peacefully, that someone did help someone out, or did he not see it and died in his thoughts that everyone's terrible and they all deserved what they got? And which one do you believe was the case?
The latter, because of the way he lied when he died, because he's looking straight up, like head back, whereas it was like down there.
Yeah.
The reason I talk about the end is because, as with a lot of TV shows, Game of Thrones is another example, the end never lives up, I don't think, to the actual.
Did you not like the ending? The
show. I did not like the ending. We had a conversation about it the other week, and you said to me, is player 456, Gihan, I think his name is Gihan, is he not the worst protagonist of any TV show you've ever watched in your life as an actor? And I was like, yeah, he is. Maybe it's because that actor they chose, every face he pulled I hated. So that made me not want him to be successful from the start. But as time went on, you just knew that he was going to do okay. However, I like almost the poetic justice of him and this old man becoming good friends. They called themselves, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, but Nabu, which is where they essentially became best friends, and what's mine is yours and yours is mine. And looking back, seeing how the older man played that game with the marbles, running around, pretending to be Headshot, it's almost as if he decided that they were going to be friends and then thought, what a terrible decision I've made. Let's try and get this, let's try and get this guy killed, because he knows he's not going to die. But to then leave, and then obviously player 456 finds his mum dead, which is a whole different kettle of fish. That also goes to show, because I'm led to believe that they were only in there for like a week, there or thereabouts, and then obviously his mum died, and he went in. That's
why he went in, wasn't it, to get the money?
Yeah, to get the money to help his mum and help his daughter, and then at the end he helps neither. He doesn't go on the plane. He does help the North Korean girl. I think she's number 67. Her brother.
Yeah.
That he does do, and he almost he didn't say yes to that pledge before what happened to her, but he did. So that was good, but he didn't, as far as we know, didn't do anything for his daughter or didn't have the opportunity to do anything for his mum. So it's almost as if the poetic justice of him going in there, going through all of that, then leads to him, the motivation for doing it, just not using that at all. Spent a year of his life doing nothing and mobbing around and feeling like he didn't deserve the money for whatever reason, to not do anything with it at all.
And do you think he didn't deserve it, or he felt guilty about how he came across it?
I think it was the latter again, because they went through all of that, and then he volunteered to walk away. And you think you've still got to deal with the trauma of 454 other people dying at that point. You've still witnessed that. You've still been a part of that, and you're happy to walk away. And I just thought that was not a plot hole as such, but I don't understand the motivation for doing that. And then the other guy killed himself. Fair enough. He knew he was beaten. But I don't know. I really don't understand how the ending, why the ending was the way it was. He could have done so much with that money to help his life, help his daughter, because he could have helped his mum. And then he goes back and sorry, go on.
No, you go. I didn't mean to
say, and then he goes back and meets the guy that he chose to support him in the 2-person task. He always backed him for the group activities, the tug of rope. He put him on the team knowing full well that it was likely to be something of stature, and he backed him from the start. And the guy's still alive. I don't know. The whole thing, once you knew who the VIPs were, was clearly a money thing. Rich people betted on it, and as they compared it to horse racing, that was obvious that motive was probably going to be there. But I feel like I came away having more questions than I do answers.
Is that a bad thing?
No.
Sorry.
I was going to say no, because it just means there's a season 2.
As a viewer, and sometimes it's not. There's been things that take one of my favourite shows of all time, Sopranos, ended on a cliffhanger, which is a very divisive ending, but I think that in itself gets conversation stuff. So as a viewer, and if I look back, I was gripped on the last episode. So outside of how good or bad the story was, I was real. There was first of all, why is he not spending the money? So you saw the guy in the station. By the way, I saw a brilliant TikTok of 2 people playing the game with the things on a underground station in London. It was awesome. Someone else filmed it from the other side of the track.
You're watching TikToks these days? You said
you couldn't
get on with it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm dabbling. I've got to experiment.
Oh, okay.
But then went through the bits, and I remember bits like where he went with the boy and like gave him. That's not the right phrase, is it? But to the mum of the guy he knew in there, and I was like, that suitcase got to be full of money. That suitcase, better. And then I was like, that better be full of money.
Yeah.
I was like, it's full of money. So I was really invested in what he was doing. So it really still sucked me in, even though it's a very different tonal thing. And I think on him, which is the second bit, and all in a way, I want to think a redemption story, only because all the way through it, I was like, I want to get a T-shirt. I want to get a numbers T-shirt with green letters on it. And then I was like, I need to be careful because I don't want to get numbers of someone who was an arse, basically. And I was toying with it. Was either the one you said, Ryan, 67, so the North Korean defector girl, because she didn't do anything bad or wrong or screw anyone over. Mm-hmm. And there was 4, 5, 6 as the lead, but like I said from the start, and I remember we talked about this last week, Ryan, what an unlikable guy. He's there in the first episode, sitting at home, not working, moaning at his mum for working too hard, and then demanding money from her so he can go to the racetrack, and then spends his daughter's birthday money on trying to gamble on top. Just awful. But then I do think he then was very helpful to people that were in there. He developed a strong moral compass. He didn't, he was obviously PTSD, whatever, when he came out and didn't know what to do with it. And when the penny dropped after having the meet with the old man, he did then start to try to make some amends with the money. which was good. He couldn't help his mum, like you said, right? You know, the irony that the reason he went in was futile by the time he came out, because not only could he not help her and didn't need the money anymore, but he wasn't with her either. And there was the bit, because I remember with watching it with my other half, and she was like, get on the plane, don't you dare turn around, you get on the plane. And there's a bit, and I agree with that sentiment, because that's, you know, he was going to go off and see his daughter and could be what he should have been. Arguing in my head, he's still the same person. Does having loads of money suddenly make him better for her? Did she need the money? She was in a supported environment. True. He's going to see her for her or for him.
Yeah, no,
so
that's
he's
true.
And it's not like he's never going to be able to see her, but it's almost like he's now bigger than the thing. He's realised they're still doing it. He's realised they're going to drag other people in. And I think when he was on the platform and he saw the other person doing the old slapping game, that's where he's like, oh crap, this is going to happen again. And actually he's taken his own what's best for him out of the question, and he's like, I'm going to stop you doing this. So from a complete beyond selfish person, he's now almost putting his needs to one side. He couldn't save the people he was in before, but maybe he can do it for the next ones, just for a positive outlook. Don't get me wrong, series 2 will probably start and he's a complete douche again and has to go through the same journey, but it was kind of that moment where it's almost like at the end of the Matrix when Neo's like, I'm coming to get you.
Yeah. I think it's probably a cultural thing, right? The choice of actor and the facial expressions and stuff. But the hair buckled me. I clocked that. I knew that the guy's brother was the front. Oh, that's what they're called, the front man. I clocked that early on. When he got in there and found his records, I was like, okay, there was at that point I was like, they're going to know each other.
You tweaked that earlier than I did.
Yeah, and I just assumed that this 456 guy is going to do the same mercenary thing and get back in and try and end it. I guess I don't know. We don't know if the photos got sent to that police chief. He did have very little signal on the top of that mountain, but they never closed that book, so you never know if those photos ended up going. If they did, then that changes everything. I'd assume for a season 2 perspective that they did, because that'd be another angle. And yeah, it's I don't know. I just maybe it's a broader subject, but I just think a lot of TV show endings are not as good as the show itself. Life on Mars and Ashes to Ashes is another example.
Oh, let's spin this off. I definitely think we do a terrible TV endings episode.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. No. That's not to stop you talking on them now, because we can expand on them. So give your ones now. But I think that is a good show topic for a mid-episode production meeting before we go back to the show.
Have you both watched Life on Mars?
And again, two of my, especially Life on Mars, I think more so than Ashes to Ashes, well up there on my list of shows. But again, once it's all revealed,
it's almost as if the magic carpet's been ripped away and you don't understand. You think, oh, that's it. Maybe that might be what it is. Maybe I'm being naive, but I don't feel like I've watched Elementary. You've watched that? The American spin-off of Sherlock Holmes?
No.
That was good, but the ending to that was terrible. What else had a terrible ending? Game of Thrones, I mentioned. I know they have to tie things off and they like having sensible, happy people or whatever. But it just, I don't know. It just doesn't. I want to see some drama. Like I want to see player 456 go on that plane and it blows up, or something like that. I don't know. I just thought the second that he got out and got given the money and he drew out that 10,001 note, for the rest of the episode, I thought someone's going to kill him. Somebody from the organization is going to kill him for whatever reason. They're going to kill him because he knows too much.
I thought there's no way they can send someone out who
with that money and knows all that stuff
beyond below the poverty line, which is why they're there.
Yeah.
And suddenly he's got what is the equivalent to, I looked it up, like £15 million just overnight. That at the same time that in a 2-week span, 400 or 500 people have gone missing. How can people not put that together? So I had the same view of you. I was like, there's no way they're going to let anyone out of this.
Yeah. And that was never assessed throughout the entire thing. That was never brought up by as the group of 456 whittled down or whatever. And again, another thing I didn't like about the whole show, and there's nothing they can do to stop this, is did you watch it in Korean with English subtitles, or in English without subtitles, or in English with subtitles?
I did dubbed, so in English with no subtitles.
Joe?
Dubbed. So heard it in English with no subtitles.
So I did it dubbed with subtitles. I did it both. You learn so much more from reading it. Oh my God. And the voice actors they used were terrible. That woman that the woman that ended up sleeping with the guy in the toilets.
Oh yeah, I know.
I hated her. Glad she died.
Because he's obviously, her character was obviously, in the way she was talking, like the actress actually paid her, was obviously very animated in her speaking, and to try and replicate that when you're dubbing it was it was an impossible task, and I think it shows in how it came out.
She kept calling them old man. She kept calling him old man. Do you remember?
Oh yeah, but I read that because that's something that's actually it's a term of endearment if you translate it, but it means that it doesn't actually mean old man.
It on the subtitles it was babe.
Yeah. Oh, and that's more what it means. What she's actually saying meant babe, but old man. Yeah, because I read that, and it was because for me, because I did the dubbed, I thought he didn't like it because it was insulting, and she was trying to make it a pet name. But actually, it's good. Different contexts. Don't call me babe. Yeah.
Yeah, and look, it's the cultural differences. I hope, and I know I've just kind of slagged off the fact that it's the way that it was made, but I hope the second season, which I know hasn't been confirmed, but it's the biggest show on Netflix for the past God knows how many years. So there is going to be a second one. Yeah. I hope they keep it Korean because I think that keeps with the tradition of the show.
Oh, it's part for me. It would be a different show if they did. Yeah. That's part of it, part of the atmosphere.
But American television developments always like to think that the Americans do it better. So I hope they let the guy that created it just do it. Because I think they will make a second season. What about you, Joe? Any thoughts? You've been pretty quiet the last 20 minutes or so.
I just, I'm not want to just think that deeply about it. For me, it's just about. I'm not thinking about all the different things. For me, it's just about what happened at the end. His meaning of his life. He just lost it all, didn't he? And lost all hope. And then I thought, for me, when he ended, and going back to that point was. He just lost all hope, and that's why he's going back in. I didn't have thought that he was going and trying India. I just thought, well, what else are you going to do? Almost like a death wish, rather than, that's what I thought when I looked at that. I didn't think so deeply of it. I don't think as you guys did, but I did enjoy it. But I say for me, that the thing that stands out is that even though he had all that money, he still was very, very unhappy.
I think that's a big thing in it, though, is the poverty commentary, isn't it? Because the way they get people in is they get into that debt cycle where they eventually sign their life away and they've got no option. But then the converse of it is the super rich, which is where those people in poverty want to be, and they're just as miserable. So money isn't the answer, but the construct we live in kind of puts people in a hamster wheel chasing a dream that's largely unachievable, and actually you're chasing it because you're told to chase it because money's the system.
It's weird, right? And don't get me wrong, this may exist in the real world and we're just not poor enough to know about it, but say this existed in the real world, an underground thing, you go in, you've got a 1 in 456 chance of winning £15 million, you win. What I just, no matter how much you're annoyed at the fact, almost swallowed it, you're annoyed at the fact that they killed that many people and it's all a sport to them, and why are you going back? But I know you've got a lot of money now, but with that money you can buy influence, so why not just buy a Korean police force, which are known for being like bribable. I don't even know that's a word. I can't think of the word I'm looking for. Open to being bribed and things like that, and just say, look.
I think bribalacious is the word you're looking for.
Is it actually?
No,
I didn't think so.
I just made that up.
But and then just I don't know. You're some. let's be honest, you're some unskilled, unqualified, not very well-off man that's come into some money. You think you're John Wick.
But maybe that is what he does. Maybe
I don't know.
Anyone notice, and that is where it goes. And
yeah,
the reason I say that, and there's a bit I wanted to say in a minute about where you talk about the odds and how you go in and stuff. I think it's the layers of manipulation they did within it.
sure.
But back on that point is when, and I'll jump back from this, but when everyone went back in, there's a big handful of them who came in with a plan. So they weren't just going back in. They were like, I've snuck this in, or I'm going to do this. Or they'd like formulate a plan out, and maybe he's at that next stage where he's given a warning he's going back in, but he's got this whole backup plan in the background they haven't seen, or something like that. That's a manipulation bit and how they came in, because I think it's the way they sucked people in, because initially they went for people who were just down on their luck, gambling habits, criminal, whatever it was. They needed the money, and it's very easy to say you can get all this money if you come in. So then they go in and they're told, oh, just play a game, and if you make it, whoever's left at the end gets the money. And then around, it's a schoolyard game and it's all a bit funny. And then the person gets shot and they're not really sure what's happened. And then they realise someone's got shot. Then 200 of them get shot, and whoever's left is like, F this.
I also thought, just as a passing comment, that that they got whittled down very, very quickly after they came back. Like very, very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And I know they lost half in the tug of war game. That's how that mass works. But I felt like they had 456. They lost like 200 or so in the red light, green light. But then you'd have thought after that people would have savvied up. In some of the other games.
I think they were like, those other games were like starters to get people to a mindset where they played in a certain way that made it more entertaining, which is where the VIPs come in. Because initially they went in and then it was, we can't do this, which is why they didn't tell him the prize money till afterwards, was it? Because people were like, no way. And then they see how much money and some are like, oh, maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
But then they do the vote to leave, which I think was inevitable to leave. And then they choose to come back because they realise life's just as crap for them outside still. And that's what some of them said. So you've now got that conscious buy-in that they know doing. And they're still thinking, we've just got to make it through. Because the first game wasn't like one person survives. It was just, you've got to make it through. So they're going and thinking, right, I've just got to make it through another 5 games and they'll get a share of that money. And then I don't know if it's the next game or the one after, but when they get them to pair up and they're like, we'll be a team, and then they get them to kill them by virtue of, if you don't lose the game, you do it. And I think that's where you've gone past the point then, because you're that bit, it's now like, right, I'm now responsible for someone I know dying. I'm going to make it to the, you don't walk away once you've got to that point, you're past the pillar.
Yeah.
And that's where I think they slowly wore them down to the point where they be more brutal, and that's where they bring in the other. And I think it's just those layers of getting people, because I think it's after that game, it's then like, oh crap, only one of us is going to be left as well. And that's where your odds change and you realise, because for me, there'd be far less people signing up if you knew there's only one of you left. But I think it's because they ebbed away at their mentality bit by bit, which I think again is part of the cruelty of it all. It's
interesting, and we'll make this the last point, but it's interesting that you talk about the vote and stuff, and the old man being last. Like they must do this a lot, and it must be close a lot. The old man was
no as well.
He pressed no, so that must be in his master plan. That it must have happened so many times before in its cycles. I don't know how many times he's played or whatever, but how many other times in its cycles, and he also always notices that the vote goes tight. He must know that the vote goes tight, so he goes last. They do it in reverse number order.
He knew that
they'd be able to buy them back in.
Yeah, they knew that would happen.
And then he met.
Click about it being the old man.
And then he met 4, 5, 6 on the outside. So I wonder if he met all of them on the outside, or a good number of them on the outside, and kind of said, "Oh, I'm going back in. Are you going back in?" So there are a lot of layers to it that that maybe a lot of people missed.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. Did not even think of that.
Yeah, but there we've managed to whittle away half an hour talking about Squid Game.
This Hopefully was really good to talk about the ins and outs of it and people's views on it, because this must be a conversation happening everywhere at the moment. Anyone out there listening, again, at listen to IN, listen to TOIN, tag us in with your thoughts. We would love to hear them. What have we missed? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Did we spoil the show for you? We did give spoiler warnings, but you can tell us off as well. No publicity is bad publicity.
On that manipulation point, I haven't got much time left, but it reminded me of Darren Brown's Push. I don't know if you watched that. Anyone watch that? Where they
don't know if I've seen that one, but I can see why it's that same thing, isn't it?
Gradually
The
getting
mentality game.
things they can't go back on. Yeah, and when you said about,
because the guy he knew started off as being almost this straight up guy, and then they had the etching, the sugar game thing, where he knew what it was and didn't tell anyone. And that was his turning point, and he started to very quickly escalate, and then he ends up.
And you're right, because they could have all gone to that easy one.
Yeah.
But he played the odds that he was going to make sure he was all right, and they possibly go, and that lowers the numbers. Yeah. But it's that slow grounding away of the morality of people, isn't it?
I can't believe we haven't spoken about him, but I can't believe he did Ali like that. I was heartbroken.
With the stones.
With the stones.
That was harsh, that wasn't it? It was like horrible.
I just knew he was going to do it as well, and I was like, no, come on.
But I just think in it just shows layers of personality, the character development, the thought that went into the story just made it was fantastic. Such a well-made bit of TV.
They filmed it pre-COVID.
Oh, did they?
2019. It's interesting. It's taken, obviously things are going to have stopped because of it, but they made it, because they had so much time, they made it so right. But that's the last I'll say now.
It's just something like they don't rush the second one then.
That was a great, superb topic, Ryan, for this week. It's the same. We spun off. We will definitely have to revisit terrible TV endings as well. I think there's some good meat in that conversation there as well. Anyone out there, again, listen TOIN, say it 3 times that I've done now. It helps it stick in people's minds. Any thoughts on terrible TV endings you want us to talk about, just stick them in the conversation. We'll credit you. We'll bring them in. Our countdown is on. We're nearly out of time. So any closing thoughts? Does Joe want to give us some? Do we want some takeaways, Joe?
Yeah, go on. Have you got any takeaways? What have we got?
Well, as we said on the preamble, I'm having Chinese tonight, so that is awesome. Look at that, another spin on an old joke.
Very good. Very good.
I wish I would.
I'm looking up terrible TV show endings now.
In fact, the door's just gone for it now.
My takeaway for the episode is that I don't really know. It's difficult to have any learning points from this, I guess, but that's the biggest. I think that's the quickest development of a character I've seen in a long time in that show. So it just shows you how situations and people can change as a result of them, and permanently as well.
Good thoughts, Joseph, from you.
For me, it's just around the money part of it, and that money is not the be all and end all. And as you can see from what you said about the rich people, the poor people, when you come out, for me, it's like making sure that you have fulfillment in your life and making sure you're doing the things that you want to do.
Awesome stuff. And I will say for mine, I'm not sure if I've got one. There's loads of content there. I'll have to revisit you on my takeaway. A lot going through my mind right now.
Put it in the comments.
Money isn't the be all and end all. Right, we're nearly out of time. I'll count us down.
Right.
We'll be back next week. 3, 2, 1.
InspirationNation. Catch you guys later.
So I want to know now, what's your biggest takeaway? Don't forget to hashtag it with InspirationNation in the comments below, and make sure you commit to action. So you can catch all our other Inspiration Nation podcast episodes right over here. So go check them out. And also, don't forget to subscribe, because that will tell you when your next video goes live by you hitting that amazing bell. So until next time, it's Inspiration Nation, and I'll see you right over there.